exercises are used in the training and assessment of umpires. In this next section, we will guide you through each exercise, showing you best practice and, in some cases, how not to do it. Firstly, let's look at some basic principles which should be followed for each exercise. Check with the players what they require you to do. Ask them to remove any bowls that they do not need measuring. Wedge any bowls that are not laying on their flat surfaces, no matter how safe you think the bowl is. Get into a comfortable position and work in the open angle where possible. Use white strips on close measures to improve visibility. Do not waggle the pointer, as you may displace the bowl by doing so. Always return to the first bowl you measured to check it is still accurate. Remove the bowl that you have determined to be shot and tell the players your decision. If the distance is greater than 1 metre, ask someone to assist you. Finally, never put your foot, hand or knee in the ditch.
Our first exercises are common measures that you should practice at your local club and at home. Here we will use a box measure to measure between two bowls. It's important that you understand exactly what you have to measure, so ask the players to remove any bowls that are not required.
After determining what you are to measure, you should wedge any bowl that is standing on its running surface. Using a box measure, place the pointer of the box on the jack. Practice this at home with the jack on a smooth surface such as a tabletop to improve your accuracy. Extend the string to the first bowl to measure it. Here you can see the reflection of the pointer in the bowl, giving a good indication that you are touching it. Note the string and the box are in a straight line. When you are confident of an accurate measurement, carefully remove the box, get up and move round to the next bowl. Repeat the process of placing the box against the jack and extend the string in a straight line to the second bowl. If there is a gap as shown here, then the first bowl is shot. If the pointer touches the bowl, do not waggle it, use a gentle touch. Always return to the first bowl to check your measurement. The string may have slipped, so always check. When you are sure you have determined the closest bowl, turn it away from the jack and indicate to the players which is shot. This umpire is demonstrating some things that you should not do. Here he is working on the tight angle between the bowls. There is a high risk of displacing a bowl when working in the closed angle, as he has just shown. Here the umpire is measuring over the top of the jack. Again, this presents the risk of losing balance and displacing the jack or the bowl. Finally, avoid stepping between the jack and the bowls. Always walk around the objects. Again, there is a risk of displacing bowls. The same principles apply when you are measuring a number of bowls. Here the umpire is faced with 2 bowls from each team, and he must find the closest bowl or bowls. First he sets his measure on a red bowl using the techniques we described earlier. He then measures the second red bowl to see which one is closer. Having determined that the second red bowl was the nearer of the 2, he resets his measure to this bowl and then moves to the first blue bowl. This appears to be closer than the red. He then measures the second blue bowl and this appears to be further away. Returning to check his original measurement, he has determined that the first blue bowl that he measured is the shot and he can remove it. The second bowl is the closest of the 2 reds.
As with all measures, it's important to maintain a steady stance to avoid losing balance or developing the shakes. This is particularly important when using calipers or feeler gauges. When using calipers, kneel on the rink to maintain a steady position.
Being a heavier object, a bowl can be used as a stable base for your calipers. Gently run the point of the caliper down the face of the bowl from top to bottom and out. Adjust the calipers until they are as accurate as you can make the measurement. Always adjust them away from the objects. Practice at home, trying not to move either object. Notice the angle the calipers are held. Remember, the nearest part of the bowl is higher than the nearest part of the jack. When you are happy with your measurement, move to the second and third bowls, and without adjusting the calipers, run them from top to bottom through the gap using the bowls, as they are the heavier objects. Notice how the end of the calipers are resting on the rink to provide a stable pivot point. Return to check your measurement against the first bowl. When you have decided which is the closest bowl, turn it away and indicate to the players your decision. Some things to avoid. Here the umpire is trying to adjust the calipers in the gap, resulting in the jack moving. Notice here how the calipers are not at the correct angle and are therefore not touching the nearest part of each object. The umpire is going to get a false measurement in this case.
Feeler gauges demand a steady hand. Practice using them at home on a smooth surface. You can improve the visibility of the gap by using white strips underneath the bowl and the jack.
After carefully wedging any bowls that are not laying on their flat surface, insert white strips to improve the visibility of the gap between the bowls and the jack. Choose a number of blades that you think will fit in the gap. And as with calipers, make sure you have the blades at an angle to allow for the height difference of the two objects. When you are confident you have an accurate measurement, move to the second bowl and without adjusting the feeler gauge, pass the blades through the gap. If the blades do not pass through, do not force them. Return to the first bowl to confirm your measurement and decide which bowl is the closest. Turn out the closest bowl, indicating to the players your decision.
When a bowl is leaning against another, preventing a direct measure to it, you must secure the other bowls in order to remove the obstructing object. Here, the red bowl has been declared shot, but to remove it, you must wedge the other bowls in order to measure for second shot.
Take your time wedging the leaning bowls carefully before attempting to remove the shot bowl. When you are confident the bowls are secure, kneel to provide a steady stance behind the two bowls. Carefully lift the shot bowl. If there is any slight movement of the wedged bowls, then return it and reset the wedges. Having successfully removed the shot, you can continue with the caliper measure to determine the second shot. Here, the umpire is lifting the bowl from the jack side, which presents a greater risk of displacing the jack. And here, one of the bowls was not secured correctly and has fallen towards the jack.
To determine if jack or bowls are on the boundary line, we will use a long string. Alternative methods, using a mirror or a boundary scope, are also available. Before carrying out this exercise, the umpire should inform the players on adjacent rinks that he is coming onto the rink. He should also ensure that the boundary pegs are vertical, adjusting those that aren't before he starts.
As you walk up the rink, you should ask another player or the umpire from the other end to take the
Could you
chalk
take
line
the string
from
and
you.
hold it on the top of the bank for me, please, in line with the centre line. Pull it nice and
Whilst
tight.
the assistant is doing this, you should support the line over the bowls or jack to avoid displacing them. When the string is pulled taut and lowered, it will rest over the top of the objects. You can now use the set square, placing it against the bowls and jack. If it touches the string first, then the object is dead. If it touches the object, then it is live. Having made the decision, the umpire informs the players and removes the string, again taking care not to displace the objects.
For measures over a distance of more than 1 metre, you should use an assistant. You can use a player, a marker, or another umpire. Whoever you use, good communication is the key to success. Could one of you help me, please? Could I ask you to place the pointer on the jack for me, please, if you stand behind the jack?
Notice the position of the assistant, behind the jack looking towards the bowl. This will ensure that the box and string are in a straight line.
Just come to this side slightly. If you could do the same for me, put the pointer on the jack, don't touch the button. Okay, thank you. Just come back again.
Having measured the second bowl, you should return to the first to check your measurement. When you have made your decision, remove the shot bowl and inform the players of your decision.
If a bowl is overhanging the ditch and the nearest part of the bowl is in a direct line to the jack, it's acceptable to use calipers. Always check that the bowl in the ditch is a live bowl.
It is a good idea to support the bowl that is overhanging with a few wedges, especially on outdoor rinks where the edge of the green may be a little uneven. Using the same principles as was shown in exercise 2, adjust the calipers away from the objects. You will notice that the positioning is a little awkward, and so it is important to get a stable stance without disturbing any object in the ditch. Measure the bowl that is in the ditch first to set your calipers. Notice how the nearest part of the bowl is underneath. When you are confident of your decision, declare the shot to the players. Don't forget to make sure the bowl in the ditch is a live bowl.
Here you've been asked to measure bowl on the rink, 2 bowls and a jack in the ditch. You will need an assistant for this measure. Never assume that the bowls in the ditch are either live or dead. The nearest blue bowl has no chalk and has not been indicated on the bank, but it may have been the last bowl of the end that took the jack into the ditch and is therefore live. Ask the players.
When you have determined what requires measuring, wedge any bowls as required and hand the fixed end of your long string to your assistant.
Are you on?
When taking the string over the edge of the green, check that it is in a straight line and do not pull it so hard that it cuts into the green. When you have made your decision, remove the shot bowl and inform the players of your decision. Notice what happens if the assistant, or indeed the umpire, places their knee or foot in the ditch. It is very easy to move a jack, so always remember to keep out of the ditch.
Here, all 3 bowls belong to the same rink. The red bowl, jack, and this blue bowl are live. However, the blue bowl is resting on another blue bowl, which is clearly dead.
As this dead bowl cannot be allowed to stay on the rink, it should be removed. The other blue bowl falls, and you should then determine if that is live or dead. Explain to the players your actions. Remember, a dead bowl or a neutral object should be removed as soon as it is determined. Any other bowl resting on it must be allowed to fall. This is the common mistake that umpires and players make. They believe that their leaning bowl should be wedged prior to the dead bowl being removed. But what happens if you are halfway through an end? Do you leave the wedges under the bowl?
In this exercise, the jack has been driven into the ditch, leaving a measure between 2 bowls a long way up the rink. You will need an assistant for this measure, just as you did in exercise 8. Communication is the key to a good measure here.
Are you on?
I am now.
Notice the umpire is behind the bowl he is measuring.
Release.
He can see if the string is in a straight line.
Onto here.
Ready now. Touching.
Let's go back to red.
Over the distance, the string will stretch slightly, and so checking your original measurement and having a feel for the tension on the string is important.
Blue ball.
When you have made your decision, remove the shot bowl and inform the players of your decision.
Measuring a short delivered jack is one of the most common measures you will face. You will need an assistant to hold the end of the tape for you.
There are two parts to this exercise. Firstly, the mat should be checked to ensure that it is more than 2 metres from the rear ditch. Here the umpire is using a 2-metre stick to do this. On an indoor rink, you may have a 2-metre mark visible, and the mat should be placed on or past this mark. If the mat is not the correct distance, as shown here,
The mat's in the incorrect position. Can I have the jack back, please?
then the jack is returned and cast by the opposing player, who can reset the mat. Having checked that the mat is in the correct position, you should ask the player to centre the jack if he hasn't already done so.
Centre the jack first, please.
Ask a player, marker, or another umpire to hold the end of the tape on the centre of the front of the mat. When walking up the rink, you should face the jack, not walk backwards. Ensuring that the tape is straight and taut, check that your assistant has the end of the tape in the correct position and measure the distance of the jack. If the measurement is very close, you can use a set square placed against the jack to check the distance, as shown here. If the front edge of the jack is past the 23-metre mark, then it is a legal cast and play can continue. You should inform the players that they can carry on and rewind your tape and leave the rink. If the front edge of the jack is less than 23 metres, then the jack has not been cast correctly, and it should be sent back to be redelivered by the opposing player, who can also choose to reset the mat. The first bowl should be delivered by the original player. To recap, the mat must be more than 2 metres from the rear ditch. If it is not, then the jack is returned and the opposing player sets it and delivers the jack. The jack must be centred before it is measured. If the jack is less than 23 metres, then it is returned for the opposing player to deliver it, and he can reset the mat. If the jack is more than 23 metres from the mat, then the end can continue. If the jack has already been delivered once by each player and is not the correct distance, then it is placed 2 metres from the front ditch, and the first player can reset the mat and deliver the first bowl.
Occasionally you may be asked to measure a short bowl or a jack that has rebounded back up the rink. This is how you carry out those exercises.
You should always walk forwards up the rink. The measurement is taken in a direct line from the centre of the front of the mat to the object. Make sure the tape is straight and taut. Place the tape to the side of the object and read the measurement. For a rebounding jack, its nearest point must be more than 20 metres from the mat. For a short bowl, its nearest points of the bowl must be more than 14 metres from the mat. If the measurement is very close, you can use a set square placed against the object to check the distance. If the bowl is short, then it should be removed and placed on the bank. If the jack is short, then the end is declared dead, or it is respotted if a sets format is in play.
Here we have a jack in a ditch on the boundary line, or we could have a bowl in the same position. We need to determine if the jack or bowl is live. There are two methods available to determine if this is live or dead.
The quickest way is to place a set square on the edge of the rink, but you have to assume that the edge is level and parallel to the bank. Alternatively, you can use a set square with a levelling bubble after running a boundary string as demonstrated in exercise 5.
With this unusual situation on the boundary line, you've been asked to determine if the jack is live. This could equally apply if you are a new umpire or an experienced international.
Having run a boundary string as demonstrated in exercise 5, it is still difficult to determine visually. Therefore, a set square is required. You may, as an umpire, remove an obstructing bowl, and so by carefully wedging the bowl, you will be able to remove it and replace it if the jack is still live. Use the set square against the jack and make your decision. If the jack is dead, then the end is declared dead. If the jack is live, then the bowl must be replaced carefully so that play can continue. When you have completed the task, lift the string and leave the rink. All of the exercises demonstrated in this section are included in the World Bowls programme for training umpires. They will be set up and used exactly as shown during the EBUA training assessment programme as part of your qualification to become an umpire and progress through the grades. Practice them at home, in your garden and at your local bowls club. You will also be shown in more detail on the training workshops. Thanks for watching this DVD. We hope that you have found it informative. We wish you every success in your training and future development.